Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Soundtrack of Your Life. What if I was to say to you the song Sweet Child of Mine by Guns N' Roses is a watermelon, or that you might hear colours and see sounds? Now, if you heard that and went, what are you going on about? Then you'll want to tune into this unique episode of Soundtrack of Your Life with Nini Castle. Now, Nini is a fellow coach who's in my space and is someone who I've worked with before and has got a real way with words to break down different, unique and complex topics into very digestible and easy to understand terms. And music is no different. She's got a rich history with music in terms of playing an instrument, which you'll actually get to experience on the show, and recording her own stuff. And it made for another hour's worth of great conversation and stories. And you're probably bound to hear something new and learn something from this unique episode. And as I say, you've got a bit of live stuff as well, so something new to enjoy. So if you are new to the show, first of all, welcome. This is a place where you get to share stories about music and moments, people, events, scenarios in your life, interspersing and getting to tell people what that all means to you. So if you want to sign up and be on the show, do check out the sign up link that's around on this description, on this post or video, wherever you're seeing this, and we can sort your slot in. So here's Nini's show. Enjoy and feel supersonic. Okay, hello and welcome to this latest episode of Soundtrack of Your Life. You know what this is about, and I'll keep repeating myself, but for those of you new to the show, first of all, welcome. This is the place where you get to share stories about music, so songs, bands, albums, soundtracks, theme tunes, whatever you'd like, and how they've interspersed with people, moments, events, times, scenarios in your life. Because I believe we've all got stories to tell when it comes to that kind of thing, so this is the place to share them. So I'm really excited about this week's show because I've got a very special guest on, Nini Castle, and I want to make sure I get this bit right. So Nini describes herself as someone who helps give back to themselves by finding their inner knowing and divinity. Now, for audience familiar with what I do, etc., you may have seen me do a show, or a few shows I should say, with Nini, and she's got a brilliant way with words to break down complex topics and ideas into very relatable and understandable bits of info and stuff to help us. And when we spoke about being on the show, you know, it was obvious that music's been a key part of her life, and that's what we want to explore in this episode. So Nini, welcome to the show.
Hey, nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure. So I guess the first place we might want to start is we've been talking off air previously about how you view things in general, not just music. Do you want to start with sharing about how you started off by seeing, or how I guess you formed your interpretation of music in whatever form?
You know, it's very interesting because this is one of those things I was born with it, and I'm sure it goes way beyond that because these, you know, you can't just, I don't think it just starts with birth. I think it's a whole timeline phenomenon. But anyways, my mom says when she was pregnant with me, she went to many concerts, and when she would listen to Elton John, Burn Down the Mission, that song in specific, I would dance. Now, he is one of my favorite artists. I call him my piano teacher because he's really the one I modeled after. And, you know, to this day, I can't say Burn Down the Mission is my favorite song from Elton John, but I really like it, and I really like all his work. So all the things I could never communicate when I was younger, and yeah, even being really good with words, even being super articulate, there's only so much you can really say. So what I couldn't say with words, what I couldn't unpack, communicate, express, I was able to with music. So I remember being just 2 years old, and the piano wasn't even at my house at that point. It was in my grandmother's house. I couldn't even reach the key. I couldn't even reach the keys, but I knew from listening, I put my ear to it, and the sound, this sound, which is the C below middle C, or, you know, it's a man's middle C, was my favorite sound in the entire world. I would put my ears to the piano, I would hear it, and that was it. I knew where I was, and then from that, I could navigate everywhere else, even if I couldn't see the keys. So it was just a very exciting experience. And that was the thing. I went to my grandmother's house, ran to the piano. That was it. She'd laugh. My mom would say, well, say hi. I didn't want to say hi. I wanted to go to the piano. That was it.
I love that. I mean, I think it's a very clear example of, like, you know, our first experience of something, right? When, you know, I guess people have the idea that as children we're like a sponge. We absorb all sorts around us. And when we hone in on something, it's like, okay, that both seems interesting and I want to know more about it. You know, that transfixed look or feeling, like, you know, either a child has or someone that's like, wow, what's going on here? And I love the way you articulated that it was an instant thing and a repetitive thing. You know, you wouldn't mind, like, and this is the thing, that the beauty, I think, of both our childhood and what we see today is, like, it doesn't, like, when children aren't concerned with what's going on around them, they just know, right, I like that thing, that's what I'm going to go for. It doesn't matter who's around us. You know, we're quick to remind them of social cues, like, you know, your mum say, you know, or say hi, and, you know, that kind of. He's like, nope, I've already honed in on the thing that I know I enjoy. Sod the rest of you, for a start, right? And it's brilliant the way you said that, you don't feel like you're born with it. This is even pre-birth, that, you know, you could feel, experience music, you know, like Elton John and, you know, those kind of songs and things like that, but before, you know, you were born. And that's a real kind of, that's, you know, for people that may have seen the promo to the show, I did mention this would be a unique episode. I mean, you've heard it already, right? You've heard there's a piano involved, so that's different for a start. But I don't think we've had anyone on the show before articulate music starting both before birth and, you know, picking something up very early on. Because you said between 2 and 3 you started the piano and finding the keys and not even seeing them. It's like, wow, that's really young.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I'll tell you, just this is topic for another show, but I do have memories of, you know, my other lifetimes. People call them past lives. I'm going to call them parallel lives, because there is no time. And I know people say that and it sounds like a bunch of fluff, but I will tell you from having experienced it, it is very, very true. It's like when you're dreaming and you're at your friend's house, but you're also at your, like your prayer house and then your parents' house all at the same time. And you're 15 years old and 30 years old, and then you're a baby all at the same time. Like, this is how this works. And I remember the lifetime where I actually gave up music because someone shamed me. And I just did my own personal regression where I recovered that memory, and I actually played the song that I had discovered in that lifetime that I was afraid to listen to in this one. When I uncovered that memory, I sat down, I played the song, and I just said to my inner self, my interdimensional self, it isn't dangerous. This isn't dangerous. So I truly believe in this lifetime, as a human, I came to really reclaim. They say, like, reclaim your power. Like, what does that mean? To really reclaim not just physical results or tangible things, but to really reclaim a sense of self as a physical being and as a divine being. And they're both important. The physicality, music is a physical thing in the sense there's an instrument involved, or your voice, but it's also a beyond physical, because what I can express in music far supersedes what I can tell you with words.
That's a great point. I think we all resonate with that last line there, especially if we, without knowing it, I guess consciously or actively thinking about it, we hone in on music that resonates or speaks to an emotion, whatever we're feeling at the time. And how often have we used the example of almost utilizing songs as a cathartic process to help process emotion. You know, you think of things like, you know, heartbreak or the other extreme of love, or that sense of vengeance or sadness, or, you know, whatever, I guess, emotion that we can't feel we can verbally express, or even we hear it expressed by somebody else going, that's what it is. And it doesn't have to be, you know, something we consciously look for. It just happens to appear in our YouTube playlist or Spotify playlist, or a recommendation from somebody, or something on the radio. But ourselves will tune in going, that's what it is, you know. As a quick example, I was watching the film The Equalizer a couple of weeks ago, and there's this brilliant motif on piano, actually, in the film towards the end. And I thought, wow, that's a really brilliant piece of music. Very basic, nothing like complex in it, composition wise, but it really honed in on both what was going on in the film, and it really struck something with me. And when I looked up the soundtrack after watching it, I found out it wasn't on the official soundtrack, but I think it was made for the film by a composer, and the title of the song or piece was Vengeance. And it's like, wow. I don't know why it struck a chord in me, but it was something very visceral and raw about it. But yeah, to highlight exactly what you were saying, if like music seems to have that different language other than our verbal communication skills to pinpoint in on what we're feeling. Like, do you have any examples yourself of like how certain emotions linked to certain songs or bands or tracks or albums or whatever for you?
Oh, absolutely. And I've always been very, very much into the melody and the harmony. Some people are into the beat, but it's the melody and the harmony. Like, that's the flavor. That's like the juice of it. And the beat is okay, but to me, it's very secondary. So I really resonate. Like, I can hear a melody and I can hear like the angels singing. Like, there was a song that I actually composed when I was 19 years old, and it was a very sad song. And I remember when I composed it, I was talking to I was feeling into a couple of people, and when I had recorded it and listened to it played back, I literally heard angels crying in the background. So I can play a segment of it because it's
please,
like
that'd be great.
Yeah, when I first played it, it was like, okay, I wrote this song, but then like when I recorded it and played it back, I was like, oh wow.
Wow.
And I remember like when that was over, because there were two people I had in mind who really hurt me very badly. And the sad thing is, they had no idea how painful their actions were. And they would just blindly do it again to somebody else at any time, not even knowing that's like, you just destroyed an entire universe of love by being so cold. And I knew in my heart, like if I were to try to express this to them, they would look at me and think, like, just get over it. And then the other person would be like, oh, you're just too sensitive. Blah, blah, blah. And when I played these songs, whether or not these two individuals heard it, I could never tell you. But I know people around me were like, wow. And then like when I heard it played back, I could hear angels crying with me. It was like, that was really a powerful experience.
But that section you played there, it actually sounds quite well, to me it sounded quite sprightly, quite uplifting. I'm by no means perfect in all the musical terms, but it felt like there was a lot of major notes going on, major chord like bits in there, as opposed to like minor scale stuff, if that makes sense. So it felt uplifting, but yet you mentioned the background of it from hurt and hearing angels crying. It's like, oh, I got the uplift from it, unless that's what you were going for with that piece or segment.
I don't like minor chords. I never have. Like, they're very depressing, and I don't mean depressing like in a melancholy. They're like sappy depressing to me. And this was the message of this song is, why did you have to change? Like, there are feelings you don't realize. Like, I did write lyrics, and for spiritual reasons, I don't sing publicly. But, I sang it to myself, and when if I were to actually be singing this here, like, you would get the message. But it's like, why did you change your ways? And why do you destroy your days? It makes me sad. It makes me mad. It makes me not glad. but there's an underlying theme, but you don't have to be this way. There are other choices. You don't have to go down this road. You're choosing to, and it's hurting me, but you don't have to. So maybe that's what you're picking up on.
Seems like it, because I could see as well in the performance, like, you know, obviously you had your eyes closed and really delivering it with a passion. But to me, as I say, it came across as a really uplifting bit. And obviously, I know it's only a segment, but I think that's also the brilliant part about you know, songs that really hit us. You know, it is almost like a story interwoven in the piece itself. You know, what a part could be uplifting, and then it could slip into introspection, and then into hope, or you know what I mean. It's like it takes you on that journey to help you kind of process what it might be, and even if it's something missing, you know, emotions wise for you, or it's like, you know, it hits upon where you are right now. I think there's something to be really powerfully said for that. So, you know, I guess that's one example of, you know, where you mentioned there were people that have, you know, in your space said, you know, you destroyed an alternative universe, and the idea that they didn't pick up on it because, you know, it felt like, oh, you just get over it, you know, very dismissive type thing. What would you say, or is there any like piece that you've composed or heard, etc., that resonates with another emotion in a really strong manner?
If you know the song, you know, most people know the song, you know, Major Ground Control to Major Tom, where he ends up in outer space and he's forever and ever. But then there's like called part 2, where he comes home. Major Tom is coming home, and I keep forgetting if it's Tom Schilling or Pete Schilling. I know the last name is Schilling.
We'll have to check that.
Yeah, it's you know, I resonate with that song very deeply because it touches also my own intergalactic alternative stories, where I also felt like kind of a stranger floating around, you know, not knowing where to go. And it's like, but you know, they're bringing him home, and he's coming home, and no one, and one of the lines is, no one understands what Major Tom sees, because he's had this whole experience. Like that song, when I hear it, instant euphoria. It just takes me for that high. And then it's the kind of high, you know, I've never done drugs in my life. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do any of that. I'm not a party person. I stay out of that stuff. But people have asked me, wow, what were you on to write that song? Like, I'm like, oh, I just get high on life. I just get high on the raw and real frequencies that travel through the space-time continuum and beyond the space-time continuum. You don't need substances to access what your energy portals can access just through meditation or presence or whatever.
It's quite funny how people just jump to that almost conclusion in the question, isn't it? Oh, you must have taken something to produce this kind of material or story behind it. It's like, as you said, like, no, it can just be your own experiences sometimes they're their own emotive power, right? And it doesn't have to mean that you've, you know, had something or in the midst of something else. You know, you may see that sort of from other people. You know, many an artist said, you know, I wrote that when I had a few bottles of whatever, or you know, and then, you know, when they're asked about, you know, how did you create it, and whether they're like, I can't remember, you know, it's just in a haze and I wrote it, and it's like suddenly millions of people are on board with it. But you know, you're right, like, you know, sometimes these things are just, it's an expression of your experiences, right? You know, whether that's a story or whether it's a piece you're writing or this kind of thing. Would you say there's any, like you mentioned, you know, ground control to Major Tom, are there any like bands or genres that speak to you more so than others?
I love classic rock, like from the 60s, 70s, 80s.
Oh, nice.
So like I mentioned Elton John, I love Boston. I like Fleetwood Mac a lot. You know, I go through phases. Sometimes I like certain bands. Sometimes I like a song from a band. Like I like, you know, by Scandal, Goodbye to You. Sometimes when it's just, I want to say, well, it's true. Goodbye to you. Blech, get out of here, you know? And the song, you know, she says, you know, in the heart, and my heart can't stand the strain. It's, ooh, and you feel the music. You watch as she's playing. I like the song Dancing Queen a lot. I like the Beatles. You know, I'm not much of a modern person, but I have to say, I think Taylor Swift I know she's got kind of a controversial rap, but you know, this woman's a billionaire and she's got a PhD and she's playing her own songs with her own instruments. I think people really need to stop bashing her, you know, and just admit that this woman must be doing something correctly if she's so abundant in so many areas. Good luck doesn't just fall on you. It doesn't work that way. People like to tell you it does, but it doesn't. I think there needs to be some appreciation to the work that the person is putting in. And like, so I definitely, it's the classic rock. I certainly do not like, you know, angry music that resonate. And I know with me, one person played a really angry song, and sometimes they'll have that guttural, like they'll start shrieking and screaming into the microphone. Like I've electrically short-circuited when that's happened. You know, I've had cramps running through my body. I've touched machines and made them stop working. It's like, okay, let's not do that. That doesn't work. So for me, it's really a very powerful thing. And obviously, if someone really resonates with that music and that's, you know, that's where they're at, then that can be very healing to them. But it is not for me. So it just, you know, it works. What can be very good, what can be medicinal, can also be dangerous if it's not used, you know, in the proper way for yourself.
Now, well put. As you said, to each their own. You know, if that's the kind of thing people are into, and it can be quite powerful. But you know, there is, as with anything, it's balance, right? You know, we've got to make sure that it's not a substitute for something else, and what have you. You mentioned Taylor Swift, then, and you're right. It's an interesting one because you know, there's a lot being made of a massive tour going on at the moment. You know, she's in England at the moment, so there's a lot of coverage about you know, where she is in the latest tour. She just did I think Edinburgh recently, and last week she's in Liverpool, and then coming up to, you know, a long stint in London at Wembley. Why do you think she received such a bad rap from people?
I think honestly, I think people are jealous, and it's harder to own. Instead of saying, you know, wow, I really wish I could be more like her. I really wish I could not to be like her, but I really wish I could do that with myself. I really wish I could make those massive leaps. It's instead of owning and admitting that, wow, this is a struggle for me, it's much easier to villainize her and say, well, you can't be beautiful and smart and rich at the same time. She's bad. She's wrong. She's, you know, a dishonest person. She's a this and a that and a that and a this and all these things. And none of that's true. And it's not fair. And believe me, like, there are plenty of trashy people out there in the world. And I don't believe in gossip. Let people, leave them alone. But like, to sit there and slander someone when it's not true, like, that's just not fair and it's not right. And I really feel that if someone's feeling sad, that maybe, oh, well, how come I don't get all the pot of good luck or whatever? Maybe search your heart and look inside and say, you know, are you really in alignment? Like, is it really about, like I said in the beginning of the show, fame and fortune, glitz and glamour, or is it about an expression? And I really feel music is an expression. It's like, I had a song that I started composing when I was 10 years old, and I can play a part of that too.
Please.
And I didn't finish it till 11 years later because I felt it in my bones, but I didn't know where to go with it. So this is what I had written when I was 10.
Okay.
And I knew, I could feel, I said, that is going somewhere, but I didn't know where else to take it. But then it came up when I was, 21, and I was putting together my second CD that I had recorded, and the song just came to me, and, I'll play parts of it, but what it developed into.
Wow.
That's just a piece, but it just keeps building. That's it.
But you could see yourself like really getting into it, and for those that are listening, it's worth checking out the video version of this just for that moment, because you could you know those people you see perform on television or in concerts, you know, when everything else is shut off around them. It's like what we're saying, you know, your 2-year-old example where sort of everything else, I'm going for that piano, and you know when there's a musician that's just in tune with their voice, their instrument, all this kind of thing, you could really see it for yourself just then. I heard that and gone, that sounds really like it could be used in a soundtrack for a film, like that kind of like incidental music, or like a character's refrain or something like that, of that ilk. Did you have any particular direction or I guess, yeah, like a narrative direction when you were forming the piece, both when you were either 10 and when you revisited later at 21?
That was a song that I more pulled out of the psychic. This
Okay.
music flowed through me. I didn't have any conscious intention with it. It was just like, I feel this like vibrating in my bones. And for those of you who know the energy channels, you know, there's 7 main energy channels, 7 main chakras that most people are aware of. But there's also 5 more. I mean, there are many more, but then there's another system that goes through 12 chakras. And the 10th chakra, which is actually, you know, because you think, you know, if 7 is the crown of your head, like 8 is a little bit above, 9 is a little bit above, 10 would be a little bit above. But no, 10 is actually beneath the it's beneath the root chakra. It's all the way, it's underground a little bit, because it's like the heart center for spirituality, but it's rooted in the earth. So that corresponds with your bones. Like that song is like 10th chakra. It's in my bones. I was just like, I am taking something from the ethereal and I'm bringing it here. And when I was 10, I could channel some of it. But when I was 21, I was able to channel the rest of it. It was more just, I titled the song "It Took Me So Long," because it took me a long time to do it. But it's like the 10th chakra also is a long activation. So it's like opening up to that energy channel. It was like, poof! Like that's all I can explain. Just this like supernova of energy.
Wow. And that wasn't a conscious decision at 21 to go, right, oh, remember that song from 10 years ago, I'm going to do something with it. It just came to you just like that. It wasn't a conscious decision to pull that out of your, you know, unfinished works and go, right, I'm going to finish this today or whatever.
No, just it's like, you know, I thought
Wow.
about it because I was writing. At that point, I was writing so much music. So that song, like, oh yeah, this song, and I just started playing with it. I said, holy heck! I said, whoa! And my mom, she would say, so how do you compose a song? She's like, do you sit down and hear a melody in your head and then sit at the piano and contemplate? I said, no, mom. I said, I have this feeling, and it's not in music. It's just this, like, you know, like this aha moment, which they say like right brain gestalt, like this aha moment. And the only way that I can unpack it is with the music. You know, sometimes I have other gestalt moments that I use math or science to unpack, which is more just dimensionality or, you know, unification of different, you know, concepts like, you know, quantum physics and how does it align with, you know, this reality, general relativity, and, you know, so it'll sometimes come out in some sort of new idea with that, but these come out in music. So it's like I have this poof, and it's like, okay, I can't sit there and say it to you, but I can certainly play it. Like,
Mm.
and that song just, it develops. It's like, that's like a 7-minute song that I composed.
Right.
And there's so many different parts to it because it's more, again, I wasn't really thinking. It just, I started playing it. And my brother was like, what song is that? And honestly, I was literally just doodling. Like, you know how you doodle on paper? I was doodling as
Mm-hmm.
I said, oh yeah. And he was like, I like that. So I kept going with it, kind of like, you know, you free associate with a thought. So I free associated with my hands and I had this whole thing. And he's like, what was that? And I said, I just made it up. He goes, right, Nini, you just made that up. And I said, yeah. And he goes, sure. And I said, I did. And he's like, right. And I'm like, I really did. Then he goes, okay, I guess I shouldn't be surprised.
Well, I think that might be indicative of what people heard of like flow state. The idea that, there's a little bit of suspension of logic or process, because you're just in that moment. It's indicative in the term, right? Flow state, where an idea comes to fruition and you're giving that time and space to let it expand, rather than like going, oh, I must remember that good idea or great bit later on, and then invariably you go forget about it. But when you're in that state, you're like, okay, I don't necessarily know where this is going, but I can keep going here, and it's still giving me results, and it's still making me want to end up with something maybe not fully formed and polished, but it's like, okay, as you said, that turned into a 7-minute piece. And then, when you tell people about it, you're like, yeah, I just made that up. It's like, you get that kind of reaction, like, no, really? You really made that up? It's like, yeah, it can happen. It can happen. So we've heard, obviously, a couple of pieces that you have shared with us really nicely. Do lyrics play a part as well? You mentioned that, you write songs that come into your energy space. Do words come along in that space to add to that music and melody?
Yeah, well, again, I do. I write songs. I am a writer, and I mentioned like I don't sing just for spiritual reasons, so I sing for myself in private. So I definitely do, and I've recorded myself singing. And my favorite singer from the band Boston, Brad Delp, he voiceovers. He does the voice records over himself, like sounding like many harmonies. So I love that. So I started doing that too. And so the way it works is I always only one time I composed the lyrics first, because again I was on the days where I used to go to sleep at midnight before I was getting up at 3 a.m. every day. And that's another story, but no, I love to get up at 3. It's not, I'm not trapped in a corporate job. No. Anyways, but, no, but on the days where I used to go to sleep at midnight, because I could sleep till 6 or 7, and I was showering, and I heard these words in my head, and I started to sing them in the shower. And the moment I got out of the shower, because like this piano here was in the basement when I still lived at my parents' house. So I put like the piano on low so I wouldn't wake my family up, and I said, I have to play this out. And it was another 7-minute piece, but it had lyrics. And I remember whenever I played it that night, so it would be, I've taken it, from quantum superposition, I've collapsed the wave function. It's here, it's a particle, I have it now. And the next morning, my mom heard me playing it, and she was like, my soul is soaring. Nini, what is that? And I said, oh, I made it up. And she goes, when? I said, well, last night. That was the one song that the words came to me first. But typically how it is I feel the music, I'll play something, and then the words come to me. And sometimes they come to me, like, again, I record the music and I hear it play back. Like I have a song called Looking Inside, Find Your Answers by Looking Inside. And that song I initially composed as an instrumental. But when I heard it being played, I psychically heard the words, as I live overhead in a garden of dreams, things just don't make sense. And I look near and far, and I see what's in store. I seek the answers by looking inside. Like these words just came to me, and I'm like, oh my God, I better remember this. So then I started to write it down. I had this sketchbook where I wrote down all the words that just were channeled to me, from the divine. And, sometimes it was on the back of an envelope, but I put it all together in the sketchbook, and I had all the words, and that's how that would happen. So the songs I created lyrics for, that all went into that sketchbook, and then I would have the words written, and then I would remember them, and that was it. I just play it.
That book must be worth a fortune, not just monetary wise, but like all sorts. Like it's a human experience, right? You hear about pieces from famous bands being sold at auction for hundreds and thousands and even to the millions, right? And it's usually just like a simple sheet of A4 and just handwritten lyrics, but they end up with being worth something. So it's amazing you've got that kind of thing. So can you share a bit about, you mentioned you've recorded, is it 2 CDs now of yourself and your music? Can you share a bit about like the recording process, how they came about?
Yeah, so how it came about was a friend. I was in college at the time. I was 19 years old, and I had a friend who, her father was in a band, so they had access to some very basic recording equipment. They had the not the floppy disks, but the zip disks. So they're a little bit. At that point, they had the 200, gigabytes, and they had the 100 and the 250. This one was even older. It only took 100. So I used his equipment, which ran on zip disks, and then he had 2 systems. So I bought one of them off of him so that I could record, have it in my own home, so I don't have to go to her home every time I want to record. So yeah, they sold it to me, and I learned how to use the different technology, how to mix sounds, how to blend the sounds, how to use the stereo versus the mono. It was, it was a technical experience, but it was also a creative experience, and mixing music, blending music, learning the hard way what clipping meant, and oh shoot, now I have to record that entire track over. And then if it clipped in one area, I didn't want to record the whole track over, so I would have to like, record just that section of a track on another track and then lower the dials and raise the dials so it flowed right in. And my friend and my dad, they're both like very, very critical of pitch, and they're like, yeah, I didn't even hear that. That was smooth. So it was a lot of technical stuff. It was fun. It was a lot of trial and error. Sometimes I would play my song for 5 or 6 hours straight and be like, I am so bored of the song, I never want to hear it again. And then the next day I'm like, yeah, let's do it again. Let's get this done. So by the time my second album came along, I had already known how to use the technology. So at that point, with the piano, I was able to mimic like an electric guitar sound. So I had,
Oh,
piano.
wow.
And then with the piano, I imitated like guitar solos, and then, I found the drum machine on the thing. So it sounded like a full band. And that's what my second CD sounds like. It sounds like a full band of players coming in there. And that CD is all instrumental. Those are all instrumental songs. So had fun with that.
Wow. That change a piano to sound like electric guitar sounds really cool.
Yeah, synthesizers. You can do a lot with synthesizers.
Wow. I mean, I don't suppose you could play a bit for us on the piano like that, could you? Or anything come to mind from either of those two albums?
Yeah, I won't be able to really imitate I have an acoustic guitar that I can, it's not that one, that I can imitate like acoustic guitar, but I can't get the
To be honest, just feel free to share if anything does come up for that, because people might be hearing, okay, what's something from those albums? I don't believe, are they on sale anymore? Like, can people hear them anywhere? Because I know we were trying to get that.
Yeah, right now I have them on a hard CD, and I just wasn't able to convert them over, so I haven't sold one in quite a while. But I can play the first. This is more of a fun song that. It was
Okay.
more, again, like a doodling song, and it's the first song on the second album that I called Just Thinking. Actually, my mom came up with the title because I was just standing there. She goes, Nini, what are you doing? And I'm like, just thinking. And she goes, oh, that should be the name of your second CD. And I said, good idea.
That is a good idea. Good. Well done, Mum. Well done, Mum. Very,
Yeah,
very,
the song.
very good idea. Very nice. Very nice. I
More
can definitely
fun.
imagine a full band playing that.
Yeah, no, because like in the band, like in the back, I have sounds like, and then maybe.
It's a
I
lot of
can't.
overdubbing going on then.
Yeah, I can't dub it up here. Like maybe I can record one
Mm.
track and one track over, but that's
Mm.
gonna, that's gonna take a
Yeah.
little while. To get the set up here. But just kind of imagine all the songs kind of being dubbed over, and then maybe in the background you've also got like just just quietly like. And then at the same time, you don't want to add too much layers, or too many layers, because then it gets too overwhelming. So it's sort of like, it'll be the first time, then you add one layer, and you add another, and you add another, and then you take one away each time subsequently, and you have this sort of like oscillating
Yeah,
build, and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
you get it, like the negative feedback system of oscillation. But
Yeah,
then it resolves, yeah, at the end.
I really like that. The multi layers, as you said, it sounds very rich and well, layered and heavy in some senses. But as you take away each piece or each layer, then it moves on to something else. Yeah, it's within the same song, but again, I went to a concert last week and it was very much a similar thing. It was a traditional rock band, so people watching. I went to see Liam Gallagher, and he's redoing the Oasis first album, Definitely Maybe, but he's doing a lot of rare B-sides as well. And one of them is a very famous one called Whatever, and it's got a string section in it. And on the studio version, you get towards the end, and each layer fades out separately. So first of all, the guitars fade out, vocals already gone, drums start to fade out, and you're left with just the soloing guitar here and there, but the strings are continuous. And he replicate the setup in the concert where the first of all the drums fade out, and then the guitar, and then you were just left with the four piece string section just finishing the song off. And it's like, wow, it started off as something else, this really big sort of number, because it was one that really got the crowd going, and everybody was singing and moving the song along. But as the elements started to be stripped out and fade away, it's like, wow, and you're just left with something very basic. And it was a very, very great experience there. But I could tell that the same with your piece there, the multi different levels and layers you've shown there. And this is what I mean when I said Nini's got a special way with words. Who else would have thought about layers in music, about a negative oscillation feedback loop? I probably got that term wrong, but you watch back on what Nini said. That's, do you know what I mean? Who else would think like that, right? So have you ever been inclined to record again? Is there a third album somewhere along the line, do you think?
You know what it was? I actually had, because I put 10 songs per album. I had 10 songs, and I was also playing in a full band at that time. So I had a lot going on. I sometimes also had gigs. So again, I had a lot going on, and then I worked. So, but there were I had some very bad rejections that went on at that time in my life. I got very badly depressed after I got rejected from school. I was supposed to go to graduate school, and it just, there was a lot of manipulation, a lot of lying, and I kind of sensed it. So nobody likes when you call BS to their face, but I kind of called BS to their faces, and I called out their bluff, and then they had asked me to leave, and I was sort of like, I thought all my dreams were going to be shattered, because I knew that I can definitely do music as part of the dream, but like I also wanted to, in addition, get some sort of career in addition to that, like to do both things. And I thought that was sabotaging, and at the same time, the band I was playing with, unfortunately, that wasn't going very well. And even though I got along, like everyone is quote unquote still friends, there was a lot of very strong power struggle energy happening. And they all kind of said to me as we were falling apart, they said to me, you are the only reason this band existed, and you're the only reason that like we didn't strangle each other. It's because everybody liked playing with you, and nobody wanted to see your integrity go down the drain. So, I think everyone was able to somewhat shake hands, and I shook hands with everybody also, but just, I saw those two things fall apart, and I kind of just said, I cannot do this. When they say it's too cutthroat, I said, it can be an art. I can use it as a healing art. But at that point, I did stop recording, and I very much stepped away. And obviously, I still do it, but like I took a very different direction. And, I wonder if it's an invitation maybe to go and heal those parts of myself and say, let's do this again and see, coming back into it, many years later, because I was 21 at the time, so, it's almost 20 years ago. It's like, can I revamp this in a whole new way and just start over, and I've definitely felt into it. And, as a scientist, as someone who loves math, as a healer, as a psychic, it's like, as an artist, as an athlete. Like this all goes to like following the divine call of life. Like I call my athlete schedule, my self-care schedule, I call it the divine marathon. So this is like the divine song, the divine masterpiece, the divine tapestry. It's like, I think it's just stepping into one's, not just mine, but one's path of divinity and allowing that to flow through in as many ways as possible. Some people, it might just be they're a parent, like a mother or a father. Some people, they're a teacher, and some people have many, many ways to express it. And I think every way really deserves to be expressed. And it gives me an invitation to kind of revisit some of the stuff again.
Absolutely, and I hope that that does happen, because it sounds like a rich, evocative journey that you could still express. And you mentioned getting to grips with technology, especially for like the second album, when you were recording it, and I marvel today at the relative ease at which people can record stuff. Like you don't need a fancy setup, it's literally on your laptop. Yes, you need things like a good microphone and all those add-ons to your instruments if you were to need them. But to be honest, a lot of the software could do the work for you. It's got things like virtual amps and virtual instruments and drum machines and drum loops, and it's like that you could, with very little budget or know-how, could spring something together very quickly. So the access is far greater today. I'm interested in asking if you've got any musical songs or bands, etc., linked to certain people in your space.
I'm not sure. I'm sorry. I'm not sure if I understand. I mean, I hear your words, but I'm not sure if I understand what you mean by that question.
So I guess, some people say that, this song reminds me of person A, and then this album is closely linked to person B because we shared an experience, like, say, I don't know, a holiday, or this was my song at college. Very people related things or stories. So have you got something similar?
Not in that way, because you're talking about a very, I guess, horizontal, matter to matter type of association. Like, oh, I heard this song back in college, so every time I hear it, I think of college days. Not like that. But
right.
For me, it's more of a psychic thing. It's like one of those. The best example I can give was, if any video games, like there's the game, Mario Party, and there's this game platform Peril, and you have this like floating platforms. They're like black and white checkerboard, and they're floating. You have to jump from one to the next, to the next, to the next. And my little brother was 4 years old at the time, so he saw it, and he didn't know the name was Platform Peril, so he was like, "Can I play the kitchen floor jump?" And everyone's like,
the kitchen floor jump, brilliant.
It looks like a kitchen floor, and you're jumping from kitchen floor to kitchen floor. So with me, it's more that way. It's like I'll hear a song, and there's no logical explanation. It just, I hear this song, and this song kind of tastes like cherry tomatoes. Cherry tomato. It's like the song "Sweet Child of Mine" by Guns N' Roses. That song tastes like watermelon, like especially the part where it's more in the major chords. Like that's the sweet part of the watermelon. And then towards the end of the song, where he goes into the solo, and it's like, where do we go now, sweet child? That's like the rind. It's not as sweet anymore, but it's like it's a different kind of appreciation. So for me, it's like I like the beginning part where it's more major. That's more what I like. But I've learned to appreciate the other parts. So it's like, no, that song is the watermelon song because, I have synesthesia. So I can see, my senses cross, so I can see color around music. So the song is red like watermelon, and it tastes like watermelon. So I kind of have that experience with music. It's
That's brilliant.
I mean, experience.
I think I found my tagline for the show. "Sweet Child of Mine is a watermelon," and
okay,
I could do
that.
Works. Have you got any other examples like that? You mentioned synesthesia. I think that's a great thing to explore. Like, for people that are new to this, they've got a great example already. But it's like, have you got more like that?
Well, it's synesthesia. It's the crossing over of senses. So it's like, it's even with letters. Like if I see, like right now, here in the United States, it's 4:25 p.m. So I'm looking at the white numbers displayed, but I see that they're white, but like 4 is pink, and the 2 is yellow, and the 5 is purple. So if I hear, like the song "More Than a Feeling," that song is red. If I hear the song, let's say "Saturday Night's All Right for Fighting" by Elton John, it's a different kind of red. They're both red, but they're very different. And a lot of the songs I play are blue. So let's say I play like I composed the song "Stay Young," and this song had more intentionality. This song I actually sat there and said, I'm sick of the world telling me to grow up, so I composed this song. notes opposite and there, but like that song it's got pinks, it's got greens, it's got yellows, it's got blues. It just, especially when I go more into the bridge, it's a little more, it's not minor, but it goes a little more diminished. But then when it resolves from the diminished and it resolves back into like, the upbeat, and it's like this poof, so that's where
it feels
I
like it
feel
reaches a crescendo almost.
Yeah, it's a Christian. That's how you would describe it, like as far as technical terms, but like to the synesthesia, to the colors that I see, or to the overcrossing of the senses. It's like, it's like looking at a kaleidoscope. It's like, if anyone remembers the old Windows Media Player, and you'd put like the song on, and you'd see like the little ball. It's like I see
There's a flashback and a half.
it's like, it's like this. Again, I've never done drugs, but it's like psychedelics. But like, I just see it every time, and it's like, and I was born with it, so I'm used to it.
Wow. I mean, I think people may have tuned into this going, okay, wow, I've learned a new term and I can go, well, almost see if I experience it in the same way. Like if I hear a song next time, do I, immediately have a number or a color to mind, and do I see things differently, And it's not to say you're forcing, an interpretation like that, but it's really interesting that you can see and experience things in this manner and feel it that way. I was going to ask. Go on, Karen.
Okay, super quickly with synesthesia, this is not something that like you learn. You're born with it.
Yeah.
All people are born with it, but just most, when infants start to grow and develop, there's a strong border between the different senses. So the crossing of the senses is pretty much negated. But for some people, the borders never go up, and that's those who experience synesthesia. So I consider, a lot of people can say it's horrible, that they think it's a curse. I think it's a blessing. Like I'm very great. I would never want it any other way.
Awesome.
Just to clarify, this is not something you necessarily learn. Like it's different than aura reading. You can learn to read auras, but this is something that I inherently see all the time.
No, I fully appreciate that, and I get that. It's something you. It's not really something you learn, but I wonder if people watch this may even almost catch themselves if they've experienced it before, because you're right, like you mentioned the whole horizontal timeline before, like one person's experience you relate to on that kind of level, but maybe people have experienced a song, an album, whatever it might be, and there is that element in there of seeing things in a, as you said, sometimes you hear colors or you see sounds, that kind of language and stuff, where our logic part going, no, let me sort that out type thing. And, it might just cue into people like, okay, I may see that. But as you say, it's not something you learn or pick up, and it's not like, a skill in that regard. But I wanted to just, conscious of time, I wanted to also ask, like, have there ever been like albums or songs, etc., that you felt that like, that feels like it came from a similar space to you, like it was from the bones of somebody rather than like an articulated songwriting process? Or put it another way, are there songs or albums you feel you wish you had written?
To answer the first part of the question, I definitely believe, like I've heard songs where it's like I resonate so deeply, and even as a child, like my mom actually like my mom doesn't remember a lot of stuff that I did, especially on this frequency. But I remember when I was younger and there'd be a song that I like, I would start spinning in circles, and I would often like try to jump out of my body. And my mom recalls me doing this, and she thought I was just, little, 3-year-olds make dances. But I remember because I resonated so deeply with the artist, I could feel his or her message so deeply. I couldn't articulate it, but like I felt them soul to soul, which again, it transcends space and time. It's non-local. It's instantaneous, like clear cognizance, which is another word for like more telepathic knowing. And I could feel it. And so as far as that's concerned, yeah, those were the people that I resonated very strongly with, usually for positive. And if it was negative, I would shut it off after like 3 seconds. Like, I'm going to short circuit. I'm going to end up blowing up a light bulb or something.
Oh, okay.
But as far as an album that someone else had written, I never felt I wish I would have written that album. I was just really, I was celebrating that they wrote it and that I had the gift to listen to it. I never felt like, oh, why couldn't I have written that? It was always like, I celebrated Elton John, and I call him my piano teacher. I celebrated Brad Delp of Boston. I call him my singing teacher because he's who really influenced me with vocals. And then I celebrate like John Lennon because I just think he's a genius when it comes to music, even though he certainly doesn't play my favorite songs except for Imagine. I love that song. But I just feel overall the man is a genius, and I feel like they were my most influential. You know, someone from being a self-taught musician, I feel like those were my most influential teachers.
That's awesome, and I can wholly resonate with a couple of people that you mentioned there, and also that sense that almost when you were describing yourself spinning, it almost felt like it felt like a sense of euphoria, and that joy, you know, that something. So it's something you've tuned into. It's only you. It's your own experience. You know, it's not a shared, a collective. You know, everybody else around you probably wasn't feeling the same kind of thing or expressing it in the same way. But it's that it feels like that instant personal connection. You know, and you mentioned it goes beyond the time and space continuum that we're thinking of, and it's like a soul sort of based connection. And I think that's a really nice way to put that, because I think we all feel that. I think, you know, as you're right, sometimes we struggle to articulate that in words, especially when we converse it with other people, maybe, that, like, you know, what is it about a song. And, you know, I think we maybe very quickly fall into the whole, well, I like this song or this band, you like this song or that band, therefore that says something about you, you know. Call it music snobbery, call it, you know, it hints at what we were talking earlier about Taylor Swift, and, you know, is there something else under it? Is it jealousy? Is it like, oh shit, I wish I could do the similar notion of what she's doing. She's doing what she wants to do. I'm not saying I want to be like her, but it's like I want the freedom to do the same things that I want to do. So she's exhibiting that freedom. I would like to do the same, but, you know, we're stuck in our own patterns and behaviours that, you know, we want to try and work on, you know, maybe feel we don't give enough attention to. But, you know, as soon as we see somebody else having that freedom, you're like, see, there must be something dodgy or wrong with her or him or they or what have you. So, you know, we resort to that. But, you know, to each their own. You know, I'm not going to sit here and say, you know, this is better, that's better. You know, it's everybody's story and everybody's own experience. So I guess last question for me for now is, what do you think the future holds for you in terms of, you know, I think you hinted at it earlier of how you want to tap into music going forward, of, like, you know, is it an invitation to heal parts of yourself? And I know we talked about the third album of, like, well, it may be there, may not be. Do you see yourself doing anything similar with that music in other aspects of what you do? Because I know, you know, beyond the music you do other things in the healing space. Do you think that could blossom into something different?
Yeah, you know, absolutely. And when people ask about, you know, what do you think the future holds? I kind of say it this way. I don't like getting too caught up on trying to kind of figure out what the future holds. I like to kind of just be in the present. And yeah, I have goals. Like, you know, I want to be doing what I call my self-care schedule. I want to continue to stay young, be young, feel young, and be youthful, and have the energy levels that I have now, like, for a long, long, long time. You know, I announced how I'm a centenarian, and I'm going to just be here for a really long time. But as far as, like, what the future holds, I like to kind of give it space to breathe, because if we overcrowd a future with a lot of plans, you know, it's, again, thinking about the quantum physics and the wave function, we're trying to collapse so many things. It's like we don't give it the chance to actually blossom. We suffocate the wave function before we even let it show us, because it has infinite possibilities available to us. You know, there are more limited ones, but in a general sense, it has infinite possibilities. But if we sit there and collapse it prematurely, like if you pick a fruit prematurely, it doesn't yet ripen into its fullness. So I like to kind of wait till it gets ripe. And sometimes, you know, I blow it and it over ripens and then it rots. But I tell myself, okay, I blew it this time, but this is going to go back to the earth. It's going to decompose, and it's going to give the new stuff to have a new one. So it's like people think they blow an opportunity if they don't yank every opportunity by the hands and by the face and, like, okay, we're going to do this now. It's like, no, sometimes let the fruit fall, let it fertilize the earth a little bit. And then the next growing season, because everything is, again, it's cyclical. It repeats in that sine wave oscillation I talked to you about before. There will be a new growth, and there will be a new opportunity. And if you keep your mind and heart, your brain, heart, body coherence open to that, you might have missed this one, but it's like it'll always come back. It's like, you know, like if you miss, like if you're riding your bicycle or in the car and you miss this green light, it'll be red now, but the next green light will come and you can go again. So I try to look at it this way. I don't really know what the future is going to hold right now. It's not my primary focus, but I do have a feeling of this definitely can be a huge asset to me. And I'm open to it. So I'm curious. It's like, I'm open, show me the way. I'm ready to receive. Like, that's where I'm at.
Awesome. That's such a great pair of examples there of, like, you know, the traffic light and the ripening fruit or the unripe fruit. I think it's actually, I think, a good pair of examples to how we treat things in general. You know, you're able to articulate it away from music as well. That, you know, as we mentioned, we might overload a future which is a space of time that we're not in yet. You know, it hasn't happened yet. It's the future. But I think we might be in the space of getting caught up too much for that we forget what's going on at the moment. And the fact that, you know, you said you're giving this thing time and space to let it breathe and see what goes on is, I think, a really cool and a nice way to sort of to be, and to show people that, like, you know, we don't have to fixate on securing ourselves and securing everything all the time. You know, we're only here right now. You know, many a quote as people would have heard about, you know, you're only in control of this present state. The past has already happened, the future is yet to happen. And so, you know, we can all take away a bit from that and feel that, like, yeah, you know what, we enjoy these things right now. That's all half the battle is sometimes, you know. So Nini, I'm conscious we're getting towards the hour here, and like I say many times in this show, it always time flies when you're having fun. And you know, this has been such a unique space, an episode that I'm sure people will have really enjoyed. And before we close out, do you just want to just share with people where they can find you if they want to sort of get in touch with you and what you do, etc.?
Yeah, I know I'm very easy to find on Facebook. I know, like, everyone's on Facebook, but really, like, I'm very responsive to messages. If you want to send me a direct message, that's cool. You know, email, that's cool too. It's like, I'm one of those people, I don't care how you contact me, I will contact you back. Like, some people, oh yeah, just call me, and, you know, sometimes they're sort of left in the dark. Like, I don't believe in that. Like, unless every so often my email ends up in a black hole and then it shows up like a month later. That sometimes happens with technology, but it's rare. So Facebook and email are really good ways. And yeah, Messenger is really great, especially sometimes people don't necessarily feel, you know, they feel it's too vulnerable to give a phone number. Some people don't care. You know, I just want to respect people's space. Like Facebook, you're not exchanging any phone numbers. So Messenger is really great, really great. And email is good too. So I keep that sort of in a neutral space so people who are more comfortable can reach out. And yeah, feel free. I'm here to like talk to you guys. I'm not one of those like, woo, no. It's like I want people to reach out. I want to be able to talk to people. I want people to win. I want everyone to know that you know, you're whole and complete as you are. Just because, you know, there's the book called Emergence by Derek Rydell. And, you know, he says, you know, the seed isn't incomplete because it's not a sapling, which is not incomplete because it's not a full-grown tree. And the tree isn't incomplete because it dies. It's just part of the cycle of life. So I want everyone to know, like, you're complete as you are. And I'm happy to reach out to anybody who wants to reach out to me.
Awesome. And I can attest to Nini's reply rate, I can say that, and communication style. You've obviously all got a brilliant example now of this episode, and she is one that genuinely does respond back, and with that idea of communicating. So do reach out. You know, I'm sure there's loads of value to be had. Nini, thank you so much for being on the show today. Real pleasure to have you on. And you know, if you guys listening and watching want to be on the show as well, just check out the sign up link that's on this description of this episode or what have you somewhere, and we'll catch you on the next episode of Soundtrack of Your Life. Thank you so much for checking out this episode of Soundtrack of Your Life. I hope you enjoyed it. Please do like and share this episode around, subscribe to the channel for further shows coming up, comment with your thoughts below, and use the sign up link to get yourself on the shows on. I'd love to have you on. Feel supersonic.